Marcus just needs some time to get back on his feet. My mother's voice crackled through the phone, her tone dripping with the same excuse she'd been using for my brother since high school. He's going through a rough patch. You know how hard it's been since he lost his job. I stood in my ransacked living room, surveying the damage. My name is Emma, and at 32, I was staring at the aftermath of what my mother had insisted was just a misunderstanding. My brother had broken into my house while I was at work, leaving chaos in his wake. Drawers were pulled out, contents scattered across the floor. My laptop was missing, along with the emergency cash I kept in my desk. Even my grandmother's jewelry box had been emptied, generations of family heirlooms vanished. A rough patch doesn't justify breaking and entering, Mom, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. He took everything of value, including Grandma's jewelry. Oh, honey, you can't be sure it was Marcus, she said, dismissing my accusation. Maybe it was a regular burglar. Have you called the police? I almost laughed at the irony. Of course I knew it was Marcus. The smart doorbell I'd installed last month had caught everything. His familiar swagger as he approached my front door. The way he looked around before using the spare key he'd stolen from Mom's house. And his satisfied smirk as he left 2 hours later with bags full of my belongings. No, Mom, I haven't called the police yet, I said, choosing my words carefully. I wanted to talk to you first. Good, she sighed with relief. We can handle this as a family. Marcus will explain everything, I'm sure. Come to dinner tonight. He'll be there, and we can sort this out. I agreed, hanging up before she could launch into another defense of my younger brother. The golden child, the one who could do no wrong, even when the evidence was literally caught on camera. Marcus had always been like this, taking what he wanted, consequences be damned. When we were kids, he'd steal my allowance and Mom would say I should share with my brother. In high school, he'd borrow my car without permission, returning it with an empty tank or dented fender. He's just being a teenager, Dad would shrug. But we weren't kids anymore. I'd worked hard for everything in my house, building a successful career while Marcus bounced between jobs, always quitting when things got too stressful or he felt underappreciated. I pulled out my phone, watching the doorbell footage again. There he was, clear as day, letting himself in at 10:43 a.m. The camera caught him making multiple trips, carrying out bags of my possessions. The final clip showed him loading everything into his beat-up Civic, pausing only to give a mocking salute to my front door, and unknowingly to my camera. Opening my laptop, my backup laptop that I kept at the office, I logged into my cloud storage. Every clip was safely backed up, along with the indoor security camera footage showing him methodically going through my house. The timestamp on the last clip was 12:52 p.m., just 2 hours before I came home early from work with a migraine. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Hey sis, heard there was some trouble at your place. So sorry to hear that. Need any help cleaning up? The audacity made my blood boil. Another text followed. Bitelu, can you loan me some cash? Just until I get back on my feet. Times are tough, you know. I didn't respond. Instead, I spent the next hour documenting everything that was missing, taking photos of the damage, and making copies of the security footage. Years of making excuses for Marcus had taught me to be prepared. At 6:30 p.m., I pulled into my parents' driveway. Mom's signature pot roast night, where she tried to smooth over any family conflict with comfort food and willful ignorance. Marcus's car was already there, and through the window, I could see him gesturing animatedly, probably spinning some tale about his latest job prospect or business idea. I grabbed my tablet from the passenger seat, straightened my shoulders, and headed inside. The familiar scent of pot roast and denial filled the air. Emma, Mom rushed to hug me. I'm so glad you came. Marcus was just telling us about this amazing opportunity he's found. A startup with real potential. I met my brother's eyes across the room. He had the same smug look he'd worn in the doorbell footage, confident in his immunity from consequences. Mom ushered me to the dining room, where Dad sat quietly, avoiding eye contact. He'd long ago given up trying to rein in Marcus's behavior, choosing peace over accountability. So, Marcus said, helping himself to a generous portion of pot roast. Heard you had some break-in trouble, sis. Real shame about Grandma's jewelry. Must have been professionals, huh? Mom shot me a warning look, silently pleading for harmony. But as I watched my brother sit there, wearing what looked like a brand new designer watch probably bought with my stolen emergency fund, I knew tonight would be different. I placed my tablet on the table, positioning it so everyone could see the screen. Actually, Marcus, I said, keeping my voice level, I have some interesting security footage I'd like to share with the family. Maybe you can help identify the burglar. The color drained from his face as I reached for the tablet. Mom's fork clattered against her plate, and Dad suddenly found his pot roast fascinating. The game was about to change, and for once, Marcus wouldn't be the one making the rules. The silence in the dining room was deafening as I pressed play on my tablet. The crystal clear footage showed Marcus approaching my front door, looking over his shoulder before using the stolen key. That's not what it looks like, Marcus stammered, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. I was checking on the house, being a concerned brother. Really? I swiped to the next clip. Is that why you're carrying out my laptop? And Grandma's jewelry box? Mom's hands trembled as she set down her water glass. Emma, honey, maybe we should discuss this privately. No, Mom, we're going to watch this as a family, just like we've handled everything else about Marcus as a family. I let the bitterness seep into my voice. After all, that's what you wanted, right? The footage continued playing. Marcus making trip after trip, methodically loading my belongings into his car. The indoor cameras caught him rifling through my dresser drawers, pocketing the emergency cash from my desk, even stopping to eat a sandwich from my fridge. Turn it off, Dad finally spoke, his voice hoarse. We've seen enough. Have we? I challenged. Because for years, you've all refused to see anything when it comes to Marcus. Every time he steals, lies, or destroys something, there's an excuse. He's stressed. He's going through a rough patch. He needs help. Well, guess what? I needed help today when I came home to find my house ransacked. But instead of support, I got more excuses. Marcus pushed back from the table, his chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. So I borrowed a few things. I was going to return them. You've always had everything handed to you, Emma. Perfect job, perfect house, perfect life. Meanwhile, I'm struggling to make ends meet. Handed to me? I stood up, matching his posture. I worked 2 jobs through college while you partied and dropped out. I saved for years to buy my house while you lived rent-free with Mom and Dad. I earned everything you stole today. Marcus, Dad's voice was quiet but firm. Where are your sister's things? Already sold most of it, he shrugged, dropping all pretense. Had some debts to pay off. But hey, Emma can just buy new stuff, right? She's got the money. Mom burst into tears, but for once she didn't rush to comfort Marcus. The jewelry, she whispered. Your grandmother's jewelry. Tell me you didn't sell that too. Marcus's silence was answer enough. I pulled out my phone, showing them the text he'd sent earlier asking for money. He didn't just steal from me. He had the nerve to ask for more, thinking I didn't know what he'd done. You don't understand, Marcus started, but Dad cut him off. No, son. We're the ones who didn't understand. We've been making excuses for you for too long. So what now? Marcus sneered. You're going to call the police? Turn your own brother. Actually, I said, pulling out a folder, I already filed a report. They're just waiting for my confirmation to proceed with charges. I wanted to give you one chance to make this right. You wouldn't dare, he challenged. The same way you wouldn't dare break into my house and steal everything of value. Those days are over, Marcus. Here's what's going to happen. You have 24 hours to return everything you haven't sold and provide full payment for what you have, or I'm pressing charges. The police already have copies of this footage. Mom started to protest, but Dad placed a hand over hers. Emma's right, he said. This ends now. Marcus looked around the table, realizing for the first time that his usual tactics wouldn't work. His face contorted with anger as he stood up. Fine, he spat. I'll get your precious stuff back. But don't expect me to forget this betrayal. Family is supposed to help each other. No, Marcus, I replied calmly. Family is supposed to love and respect each other. You've done neither. He stormed out, the front door slamming behind him. Mom dissolved into fresh tears, and Dad looked years older than he had at the start of dinner. I know this is hard, I said, gathering my things. But it's necessary. I love you both, but I won't be Marcus's victim anymore. As I drove home that night, my phone buzzed with texts from Marcus, alternating between threats and pleas. I ignored them all. The security system alerted me that he'd driven by my house twice, but the new locks and additional cameras gave me peace of mind. Tomorrow would bring what it would. Either Marcus would do the right thing for once, or he'd face the consequences of his actions. Either way, I was done playing by the old rules. The family dynamics had shifted, and there was no going back to the way things were. The ball was in Marcus's court now, and for the first time in his life, charm and excuses wouldn't be enough to save him. The next morning, my doorbell camera alerted me at 6 a.m. Marcus stood on my porch, looking disheveled and carrying several bags. Gone was his usual swagger, replaced by the desperate look of someone who finally hit a wall. "Most of your stuff is here," he said when I opened the door, keeping the security chain in place. "The jewelry, I can't get it back. The guy I sold it to won't return my calls." I noticed he was wearing the same clothes from dinner, his designer watch conspicuously absent, and the money. He pulled out an envelope. "It's not all of it. I cleaned out my savings, sold my watch and phone. I can get the rest in installments." "No more installments or promises, Marcus. Where's the rest?" He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of our childhood that for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "I talked to Dad last night," he said quietly. "He's selling my car to cover the difference. Said it was time I faced real consequences." I closed the door, removed the chain, and opened it fully. "Bring everything inside. We'll inventory it together." For the next hour, we cataloged every item. My laptop, slightly scratched but functional. Books, electronics, even the framed photos he'd taken for their decorative frames. Each item he returned seemed to deflate him further, stripping away layers of entitlement. The jewelry, I said finally, belonged to our grandmother. It wasn't just about the monetary value. "I know," he whispered, and for the first time in years, I heard genuine remorse in his voice. "I found this in my car." He pulled out a single gold locket, the one piece of Grandma's collection I thought was lost forever. It had fallen under the seat. My hands trembled as I took it. Inside was the same tiny photo of Grandma as a young woman, smiling at a future she couldn't see. "Dad's right," Marcus continued. I've been awful. To everyone, but especially to you. I always told myself you could afford to help me, that you owed me because you were more successful, but I'm the one who owes you." "Yes, you do," I agreed, refusing to let emotion soften this moment. "And not just money." He nodded, pulling out another envelope. "This is from Dad. Payment for everything I sold. And this," he handed me a folded paper, "is my signed confession. Dad said you should have it, in case I ever backslide." I took both items, surprised by our father's thoroughness. "What now?" "Now," Marcus stood up, looking around my living room, the scene of his crime just yesterday. "Now I get help. Real help. Dad found a counselor who specializes in addiction and entitlement issues. Made an appointment for this afternoon. Also, I start a new job on Monday. Not a startup or a get-rich-quick scheme. Just honest work at Dad's friend's construction company. And living arrangements, moving into a shared apartment. Dad's paying the first month's rent, but that's it. Said it's the last support I'll ever get from them unless it's for therapy or education." I sat down, feeling the weight of years of family drama finally shifting. "I'm not dropping the police report," I said firmly. "It stays on file." "I know." Dad said the same thing. Said I needed, what did he call it? A sword of Damocles hanging over my head. For the first time since this began, I smiled slightly. He's been waiting years to use that reference. Marcus attempted a weak smile in return, but quickly sobered. "I know sorry isn't enough, Emma. But I am. Sorry for yesterday, for all the years before, for being the brother you couldn't trust." I stood up, gathering the envelopes and documentation. "You're right. Sorry isn't enough. Trust is earned, Marcus. Maybe someday you'll earn it back." He nodded, heading toward the door. At the threshold, he turned back. "The locket? Grandma gave it to you when you graduated college. Said you were the one who'd carry on her strength." I never understood what she meant until now. After you left, I sat in my restored living room, holding the locket. The house felt different, not because of what had been returned, but because of what had been revealed. My parents' newfound backbone, Marcus's first steps toward genuine change, my own unwavering stance. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Your father and I are so sorry, honey, for everything. Can we come over later?" No excuses this time, just long overdue apologies. I replied with a simple yes, then added a photo of the locket. Her response came quickly. "She would be so proud of you. We all are, even if we forgot to show it. Looking around my house, now restored but forever changed, I felt a sense of peace. The security cameras would stay up, the police report would remain filed, and the boundaries would stand firm. But maybe, just maybe, from these ashes of trust and enablement, something stronger could grow. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility, and for now that was enough.